Well, Jimmy Johnson found out he was going into the Hall of Fame live on TV. The NFL and Fox analyst joining us on the program. Jimmy, good morning. Congratulations. I got a feeling Terry Bradshaw's not good at keeping secrets. Did you get any idea that this was going to happen live on TV?
Dan, no, it was a shock to all of us because, Terry, none of the guys knew. Our producer knew. He told me later on, but he didn't let any of us know. And, I thought that there was a chance that I was going to get in, but I didn't anticipate this happening during halftime. My mind was racing. I was all ready to do halftime and talk about the coverage that Seattle had against Green Bay and stuff, and all of a sudden Dave Baker walks out, and I was in shock, and I think all of our other guys were too, and they were as excited as I was. It was really a great moment.
And Troy Aikman was in the broadcast booth and overwhelmed by. I think he cried as much as you did.
Well, I was put into the College Football Hall of Fame about 7 or 8 years ago, and that was obviously special because I coached in college for a long time. But this was really something because people don't realize, the Cowboys. Tom Landry's one of the greatest coaches that's ever been, but they had 3 losing seasons in a row, and they were 3-13 when we went to the Cowboys. I mean, really, the cupboard was bare, and to take that team from 1-15 to 4 straight losing seasons and to win back-to-back Super Bowls was quite an accomplishment. And I'm not saying for me, I'm talking about my assistant coaches, the Norv Turners, the Dave Wanstedts, the Tony Wise, really, the guys that helped me, and then all the great players that we ended up having, with the Cowboys. It was quite an accomplishment, and it was nice to be recognized for that.
When you first started out with the Cowboys and you went through those lean years, did you ever think that you were in jeopardy of being fired?
Oh, no. I mean, first of all, I had a 10-year contract. But I guess we were so naive. We went 3-1 in preseason. We didn't realize how bad we were. But, of course, we were trying to win every game at preseason. I was a college coach. I didn't know. I thought you were supposed to win these preseason games. And we had so much success. We only lost 2 regular season games in 4 years coming from University of Miami. So we were so naive, we were thinking we were just going to walk into the NFL and just start beating everybody. Well, it doesn't work that way, especially when you don't have a lot of talent on your team. And so, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that, we were very confident that we were going to win. I actually told the guys during that 1-15 year, I took, my inner circle crew, Wanstead and, Butch Davis and Campbell and, Norv and all of them. I said, listen, guys, I said, I told you we're going to win a national championship, when we were together at Oklahoma State, and we won that national championship at Miami. I said, hang with me. We're going to win us a Super Bowl eventually. And it eventually happened.
What don't I know about the Herschel Walker trade?
It would take me 30 minutes to explain it, and nobody really still to this day understands it because everybody thinks that we've got, we got like 15 players out of this thing. Actually, Ernie Accorsi was at the Cleveland Browns. I was on the phone every day trying to trade anybody I had those first couple of years because I knew if it was the old, take the best player available like the NFL did. Nobody traded back then. There was no fantasy football. And if we take the best player available, we weren't going to do anything, but we weren't going to turn this thing around because we didn't have enough players. And the only thing I could do is try to make some trades, to build up some draft picks. And so I tried to trade Steve Walsh to a bunch of teams. I ended up trading him for a 1, 2, and a 3 to New Orleans. But I'd been on the phone with the Minnesota Vikings with Mike Lynn trying to trade Steve Walsh. But Ernie Accorsi was with the Cleveland Browns, and he called and he said, what would it take to get Herschel Walker? He's your only Pro Bowl player. And everybody kind of looked at him. He's your only player. And I said, well, it's going to be one of those Guy Lombardi, Lombardo, like a 1, a 2, and a 3, and a 1, a 2, and a 3. And so he called back and he said, we don't have a 1 next year, and they da-da-da-da. And so he said, what about this? I said, that may work. He said, well, I'll have Art Modell call you tonight, and we'll finalize this thing. And so I went to Jerry. I said, Jerry, I've got a hell of a trade. And I said, but I think, maybe we can get better. And, we might as well investigate it. I said, Rankin Smith, Herschel's from Georgia. Why don't you call him at Atlanta? I'm going to call, a bunch of these other teams. And I called Minnesota to call Mike Lynn. So I went to practice, and then I came out back at practice, and my secretary said, there's a fax on your deal about what Mike Lynn wants to offer for Herschel Walker. And we were so bad, he wanted to give me 5 players that were cast off for him. One had, bad knee, one was disgruntled, but they were all better than anything we had. And he said, if you keep these players, the only pick you get the 1 first-round pick. That's it. 3 years from now. If you keep these players. And if the player doesn't make it or you don't keep this player, you end up getting a pick that's corresponds, to his name. Well, right then and there, I knew I wasn't going to keep any of those players. I knew I was going to get picks, but I couldn't tell Mike that. So I anticipated down the road releasing those players and getting the picks, and then I got to thinking, well, I've got him in a bind. If I wait until the end of the season, I can negotiate. I'm going to tell him I'm going to cut all these players, so you're not going to get anything. I said, let me keep the players and the picks, and I'll kick you back a 3 or a 7 or something. And so we released one right off the bat. One had a bad attitude. We released him. We ended up negotiating, and none of those players were part of our Super Bowl teams. But we were able to keep 3 of those players and ended up getting 4 or 5 picks. So we ended up about 5 players out of that deal. But no one really understood the trade and how it worked. And like I said, a lot of people don't understand it to this day.
If you don't make that trade.
Oh, Dan, that was one trade. Like I said, back then, teams didn't trade. Like, for instance, the New York Giants made one trade in 5 years. That was with me. In 5 years, I made 51 trades. And those 51 trades were more than the entire league put together. And that's when I came up with the value chart of trading picks for picks, because I wanted a value right there in front of me on draft day, and saying, "Hey, I'll swap 2s and I'll throw you my 4." Well, they're on the clock; they don't know what the value is, and they say, "Okay." Well, I had the chart right in front of me, so I knew what the relative value was on this thing. Now every team. In fact, I talked to Ozzie Newsome the other day. He said, "Hey, I use your chart on the Peters trade with the Rams." So everybody in the league's got the chart. After I had lost all my coaches, when Wanstead goes to Chicago and Norv goes to Washington, well, they took the chart with them. so everybody had the chart.
We got to call it the Johnson chart.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's your legacy. It really is.
Well, the chart helped me, but we made trading for Charles Haley probably put us in the Super Bowl. Mm. John McVay, called and said, "Hey, I've got a great player, but he can't get along with our coaches. Would you be interested?" And so I had my coaches call their coaches, my players call their players. Well, what kind of guy is Charles Haley? And they all said, "Hey, he's a great player. He's smart." But he has a little problem with authority, And I said, if he's smart and he's got passion for the game and he works hard, I can deal with that. So we ended up making the trade, and that was a key for us, getting that pass rush, for our team. And we lose in my 3rd year. We lose in the playoffs. We beat Chicago, and then we lose to Detroit because we didn't have any defensive backs. Well, the next year I draft Darren Woodson and Kevin Smith, to help our defensive backs. And so we kind of locked that, and then that's when we had the Haley trade. That put us in a couple of Super Bowls. But we made 51 trades. Like I said, teams didn't trade back then.
He's Jimmy Johnson, now a Hall of Famer, NFL on Fox analyst. Can you clear something up? With your first job, was that at Louisiana Tech, and did you recruit Terry Bradshaw to Louisiana Tech?
I watched him play. I remember sitting in the stadium with a coach. The assistant coach that was assigned to him was E.J. Lewis, our secondary coach at Louisiana Tech. That was my first coaching job. And I wasn't actively recruiting him, but I watched him play his senior year in high school at Woodlawn High School. And so that was really my first contact with him. But I really didn't know him and didn't actually recruit him. But I was with the coach that was involved in recruiting him for Louisiana Tech.
Of all the teams this weekend coming up, who do you think has the best chance of pulling off the surprise on the road?
Well, I think both of them have a shot. You know, the way as Mike Vrabel, has got to be recognized as doing one of the best coaching jobs in the league this year. I mean, making that decision to put Tannehill in there and make a change at quarterback. They are a physical football team, and they've got a horse back there running the football, and so they can play keep away with you running the football. And Tannehill has played well, and they are very efficient. They don't make a lot of mistakes. He comes from the Bill Belichick line, so he knows how to get it done. I give him a chance. As good as Kansas City is, and as many points as they score, I give them a chance. And Green Bay got beat, 37-8 out there a few weeks ago against San Francisco. But when you got Aaron Rodgers and you got Aaron Jones that can run the ball, and your defense has played great here the last month or so, even though they got beat the last time out there, I don't discount them.
Did you? I don't know if you still stay in touch with Ed Orgeron, who was, I think, your defensive line coach.
Yep, he was Edward. Hey, listen to this coaching staff. Of course, Wanstead and Butch Davis and Campo and those guys. But my intern coaches, my young guys coming up, was Chuck Pagano, Ed Orgeron, Tommy Tupperville. Bill Johnson, who's a defensive line coach, I think, with the Saints. Well, he was with the Saints and the Rams. I had some quality coaches. Orgeron did a great job for me.
Did you understand what he was saying? I mean, did he have that voice even back then?
He's got that gravelly voice.
Oh, my gosh.
I love listening to him.
That's a coach's voice there.
You know what, though? He's a great recruiter. He's a great person. He's so sincere. The players love him. The mothers and daddies, when he recruits players, they love him. And he went through tough times now. I mean, you can look at his history, and there were some times that he was on the edge. But he's overcome those things.
Yeah.
And just doing a great job at LSU, and so proud of him. We've talked a time or two. In fact, I texted him this morning how proud I was of him.
Well, congrats on the honor. It was wonderful to see, and thank you for telling stories. We always appreciate that, Jimmy, and have fun this weekend.
All right, Dan. I certainly appreciate it.
That's Jimmy Johnson, Hall of Famer.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.